Somebody's getting it, somebody's getting my love. Somebody's getting it,
What's going on, guys? Another episode of All in Vegas, where I go to all the different poker rooms and I play a session and vlog for you guys. It's the Manny Pacquiao fight this weekend. It looks to be that it's a little bit busy down at the poker room. So we're gonna go play some 1-3 action. Hopefully it won't take too long to get on a list. I didn't call in ahead of time. This place is an MGM property, so it is M Life. So if you got your M Life card, bring it along with you. And I don't know, maybe if the line's too long for 1-3 no limit, we'll go play some 1-2 PLO. But if not, yeah, different buy-in today, guys. We're buying in for $300, and let's try and spin it up. A lot of vloggers come to the Aria, nothing too brand new, but if I see something pretty cool, I'll show you guys. And let's walk down there and see how we do up on the poker streets. Yeah, guys, it is an extremely long list, probably close to like 22 people, I think, but we're gonna take a walk. Let's go explore the Aria. Aria is definitely alive on a Friday night. Lots of people, and my list for the poker room just grew to 30 people. Never seen that many people on the list, so that's good. I'm excited. Yo, so I was editing these videos and I noticed that a lot of my table footage is actually not usable, so that's super unfortunate. I use my phone with a pop socket to lay my phone behind the chips to record the action for you guys, and unfortunately it was just a little too low, but that still doesn't stop me to go over some of these hands. Let's talk about this one. This particular hand was in the very beginning of the session. This is one of the first big pots that I got into. So I have ace-10 offsuit. I have about $275 in front of me. We're playing 9-handed and we're in the cutoff. There are 3 limps ahead of me, and I go ahead and I over limp. There was a player to my left when I first sat down that was a little bit more aggressive, doing a lot of squeeze plays and a lot of raises pre-flop. So I go ahead and limp. Over limp, anticipating that he's going to raise, but he ends up just calling, and the blinds check through, and we are 6 ways to a flop. The flop comes 10-7-5 rainbow. It checks over to a player on my right who bets $20. I make the call, not going anywhere, top pair, top kicker, and everyone else folds. And the turn brings in ace, so we now improve to a 2 pair. The player goes ahead and bets $30. I don't see a reason to raise on this particular ace, and I want to keep a lot of her range intact. So I flat the $30, and the river comes another 10. So it always feels good when every street just improves your hand dramatically. She goes ahead and she bets a little bit small relative to the pot. She bets about $45. At this point, I want to make a raise, and I didn't know if I should go for the complete goods, but I went ahead and I raised to $120, leaving about $100 in front of both of us. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted her to call with the weaker 10s, and I felt like that this particular player, who was an extremely tight player, wouldn't probably make a call if I went all in with a 10. So I make it $120 and she makes the call, and I flip over ace-10 and we're good. Later on in the session, she's telling me that she also had a full house. So if that's the case, super unlucky for her and super lucky for us. But happy to take that down in the beginning of the session. 120?
120.
Here's another one, guys. We are in middle position. We have about $480 in front of us, and we are playing nine-handed. Folds around to us, and we look down at ace king offsuit. So I go ahead and I bump it up to $10. Folds around to the cutoff, who makes the call. The button calls as well, and the big blind decides to make it $35. This particular player was more of an active player. He was a little bit aggressive, and I'm definitely not going anywhere with ace king. So I go ahead and make the call, and the button calls as well. We are 3 ways to a flop. The flop comes king 8-6. The big blind decides to bet out $45, and I'm not going anywhere. Top pair, top kicker again. So I make the call, and the button folds. The turn is the 4 of spades. The big blind makes a bet of $65, and I make the call. I felt like the 4 didn't really change too much, and if I was good on the flop, I'm pretty good now. I don't really see him raising with 5-7 pre-flop. I think we're more up against ace-king, king-queen type combos, especially out of position for him. The river comes with the 2 of diamonds, and he makes the check. And at this point, I was thinking about going all in. I really was, only because if there were a lot of chop possibilities, that he could probably find a fold on the chop, and I don't really see a lot of hands that take this line that can beat me. Pot was already like $300 something. I go ahead and I check behind, and sure enough, the big blind shows ace king offsuit as well. Would you guys, I don't know, would you guys would have made a play on that river? I was thinking about it, but decided for a check this time, so we chopped it up, and that's okay. Here's another hand. We are in the cutoff. We have about $550 in front of us, and we are playing nine-handed still. So it folds around to under the gun +2, who limps, and middle position decides to raise it up to $18. This middle position player is actually the same player that I got into that chop pot with ace king. Folds around to me, I make the call. I could have 3-bet this particular player, but because of his aggression, I wanted to keep a lot of his weaker holdings there, just in case I hit on the flop, and possibly be able to get a lot more value from his weaker holdings post-flop action. Folds around to under the gun, limper, who makes the call as well. We are 3 ways to a flop. The flop comes king jack 5. Under the gun +2 player checks. The middle position player bets $30. I'm not going anywhere. Call for $30, and the under the gun +2 player folds. So we're heads up to a turn. The turn brings the 3 of diamonds. The front door flush gets there. The middle position player bets $30, and I'm not going nowhere, and it's a really small bet in comparison to the pot. So I make the call, planning to possibly shut down on any diamond river, but also planning to call off any non-diamond. The river comes the 7 of clubs, and sure enough, he bets $55. And I have no other choice but just to call. If he has a flush, he has a flush, and if he beats ace king, then good for him, but there's still a lot of other holdings that he could have in this particular hand, like king queen or weaker kings. Single diamonds on the turn, that's continuing for so small on the turn. So I make the call, and sure enough, he flips over king queen offsuit, and we are good. Taking a little walk, do a little quick mid-session update. Been playing for about 2 hours. Still on my first buy-in. To be honest, I'm running pretty pure. Getting a lot of good cards. Talking, I've gotten aces, kings a couple of times. I mean, one of the first hands I got when I sat down was kings. I got into a really big hand where I limped ace 10. I overlimped ace 10 offsuit, and on the flop was 10 high, and a tight player to my right bet, and I called, and the turn pulled up an ace. She bet again, I called, and the river was a 10, and she bet, and I raised, and she called, and she said she had a full house. She folded a 10 face up. So it doesn't get any better than that. I love when someone's betting into you and every subsequent card is making your hand a lot better. So turn a better hand, and then river a better hand. That's always the best. I got into another big hand with ace king. We chopped the pot. I had ace king, I had raised. Another player went ahead and 3-bet pre-flop. I called, the flop came king high. He bet, I called, the turn came, was a blank, he bet, I called.
the river came was a blank, and he checked and I checked, and we ended up chopping the pot. But I was thinking, could I get a chop? The way that his sizing was on the flop and turn, I was wondering if I could somehow try to pull a rivered, like a river bluff to try and push him out of a split. But we'll go over that hand when I get home, or when I decide to do the hand history. And also, one of the other things I noticed about 1-3, it does play slightly bigger than 1-2, but the raise sizing makes a lot more sense. In 1-2, you know, you're raising 5x big blind pre-flop. Standard raise is like 200. I mean, the standard buy-in is like 200 bucks. Here, it runs closer to how it would be online. So, standard raise at my table right now is 10 bucks. So it's about like 3x the big blind, you know, 3.2x the big blind, whatever it is. And the sizing just runs a little bit more true. Because sometimes you get into weird situations with 100 big blinds in 1-2 because they're raising 5x big blinds. So essentially, you know, you're playing a little bit less. So to say, if the standard raise is $10 at a 1-2 table, then your effective big blind, so to say, it should be a little bit lower than 100. So, but yeah, running pretty good now. So I just wanted to step outside, take a breather, and let's go back in and grind it up some more. Oh yeah, and also while I'm walking in here, the fresh squeezed watermelon. That is my favorite. If you're getting drinks from the cocktail waitress, get fresh squeezed watermelon. Love it.
So I did my mid-session update, and as soon as I got back, I sat down to this hand. We're sitting in the cutoff, and we have about $600 in front of us. There's 2 limps ahead of us. And I said it a couple hands ago, there was this particular player that was sitting to the left of me that was raising every single hand, was playing extremely loose pre-flop, and was 3-betting a lot of my opens. So I go ahead and overlimp with anticipation to call one of his raises. So I overlimp 9s, which I typically don't do. I typically would like to raise in this position, and the button only ends up calling. So the aggressive player just calls, the small blind completes, and the big blind checks his option. The flop comes extremely good, 9-9 jack with 2 diamonds, checks it over to me, and with that many players in the hand, I didn't really see a reason to check, so I go ahead and I make a bet for $10, hoping that someone got a piece of this as well. Folds it over to the small blind, who makes the call, and everyone else folds. So we are now heads up, and the turn comes the 8 of diamonds, which completes the front door flush. I'm hoping that this player has diamonds, ace-jack with ace of diamonds, or something similar to those holdings. He checks it to me, and I decide to continue for $25, and he makes the call. So things are looking a little good here. The river comes the 2 of spades, and he checks it over to me again. This time I inspect his stack, and I realize that he only has about like $60, $65 left in his stack. So there's no other option but for me to put him all in. I bet out $100, which effectively put him all in, and he ends up folding. He didn't even take a long time before he folded, so I was curious as to what he was committed to on the turn and not calling off on the river for that size. Alright guys, this is the last hand I want to go over with you guys. This will also be our all-in hand of the session, and I'm curious as to what you guys would do in my situation. So we are on the button. We have about $500 in front of us, and we're still playing 9-handed. There are 3 limps ahead of us, and we are on the button with pocket queens. So I decided to bump it up to $25. Big blind calls, and everyone else folds. So we are heads up to a flop. The flop comes king, jack, 8 of hearts. So this is where the hand gets a little bit interesting. The big blind actually just sat down, and this was his first big blind hand. Well, it was his first orbit, and he only bought in for like about $100. He was able to win 1 hand prior to that, and he started the hand with about like $120, $130. He doesn't decide too long. He looks at the flop, and he decides to go all in for $108. There is only $60 in the flop to begin with, and I have the queen of hearts, so I am faced with a decision. So I was sort of thinking about the type of hands that he could be doing this with. Is he really doing this with like the ace king with the ace of hearts, or is he doing this with two pair? Is he doing this with a heart draw? Did he flop hearts? Typically if he flopped hearts, I have a feeling that he would check it over to me and let me bet and get a little bit more value if a heart falls on the turn. If he's doing this with two pair, it makes a little bit more sense because he could be afraid of the hearts and just over repping, thinking if I don't have a heart, then I can't make the call, correct? Especially with me having the queen of hearts, I still have some equity there, and it wasn't that much money. It was only $108. So I go ahead and I lean towards him being more afraid of the hearts and flopping a little bit better than what I have. And I make the call knowing that I might be behind, but I'm still live to a heart, and it was just such a small amount of money, and it just didn't make sense for him to open shove that flop. So I make the call, and sure enough, he does flip over king jack offsuit. He says good call, thinking that he was already dead. The turn comes the jack of diamonds, which causes us to draw to a queen and queen only, and the river comes the two of diamonds. So we didn't win that one, but you guys making that call right there, I think I'm making that call. I think I'm okay. I think I'm happy with it. There's just too many other hands that possibly could be doing that play, but.
Alright, so I just finished my session. Played for about 5 hours. It's probably close to 3 o'clock in the morning now. I started around 10 o'clock. So my run good stopped probably a little bit after I did my mid-session update. Only lost really one significant hand. I had pocket queens I raised pre. The flop came king jack 8, I think, with all hearts. King jack 8 all hearts. And the guy in the small blind who just sat down with $100, he only had like 120 bucks, he open shipped it. So I ended up making the call because I had 2 red queens and no help for the flush. He ended up having 2 pair, but I'll do that in a little bit of a hand analysis in regards to why I called, because I don't really see if the ace of hearts, if he had like a pair with the ace of hearts, I don't see him shipping it. If he flopped the flush, I don't see him shipping it. It's just really weird why. Maybe if he had a lower flush, he could ship it, but I mean, I had 2 red queens. Assuming that he is on, if he has the ace high flush draw, then he has the ace high flush draw, and he didn't have enough chips for me to really get away from it. So I don't know if that's really a bad call or not, but I probably leveled myself into that one. But nonetheless, majority of the session was really good. I had a lot of fun. The Aria poker room is actually a nice room. I love playing in it. Closer towards the end of the session, there were some interesting hands going on, but I started getting a little card dead. People were like over betting a lot at my table, and there was a brand new player that just sat down, and he was sort of attacking people. I guess he lost 2 hands in a row against another player, so he was like, I don't know, borderline verbally aggressive, and I decided to pack up and leave, even though I really wanted to stay, but it's getting late, and I promised the missus I'd be home now. But yeah, only the queen's hand was the only hand I significantly lost, and yeah, bought in for 300 bucks and we cashed out for $550. So at one point I was all the way up to like $700, but I mean, I just called off that $120 or $108 or something like that, so no big deal. That's okay too. But yeah, I'm gonna call it a night. The Aria is beautiful. I'll come out here to play a lot more often, and the players weren't even that crazy. I don't know if it's because it's the fight or something, but usually people tell me when they go to the Aria that the players are super good, but I had a fun time. There was a lot of fun times. I had to play a little bit tighter than I wanted to, but nonetheless, it's okay. Played ABC poker and I was able to make some money. It's always the best way. Well, I'm rambling now, guys. As always, if you like what you see, go ahead and hit the sub button. Thumbs up the video if you liked it. Thumbs down if you didn't. Comment below. Let's talk. Message me, whatever. But next week, maybe we'll go to like an off-strip property. Something that's like away from the strip or somewhere that doesn't really spread no limit. Maybe we'll get into the limit streets or something, but we'll see. Thanks guys, I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Yo, they gotta do something about these parking rates. 4 to 24 hours is $18. You guys are tripping.
You know, this year I am gonna sign up for these credit cards, especially for the Caesars properties, because if I'm doing this all-in thing and I'm hitting all the properties, I can't be paying for parking. I don't pay for MGM's parking because I have a little pass to get in.